Welcome everybody to the next episode of the Cannabis Review. I'm delighted to be joined in this episode by Ken Watkins, who's director of the American Journal of Endocannabinoid Medicine. How are you keeping today, Ken?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
I'm delighted to have you on. Thank you very much. It's in a very exciting platform that you're after building and the journey that you guys are on. So great to be able to share with the audience. Can you maybe give everybody a quick little overview of how you ended up coming to found AJEM and what your position in the industry is, please?
Sure. I've been in the I've been in the medical advertising industry for about 25, 30 years, always on the pharmaceutical side of the house. I've worked for the British Medical Association, the American College of Physicians, a lot of for-profits, not-for-profits, med ed companies, always with the doctor as our target. I guess it was around 2018, I started to notice that, people that I knew were being helped by medical cannabis, either with sleep disorder problems, chronic pain problems. Around the same time, I stumbled upon video of children who are having their seizures arrested by cannabis oil. And I think that was the catalyst that really got me interested to at least investigate a little bit more and see if there was anything to, medical cannabis and its utility. I had already been involved with traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, so this just seemed like a natural next step. Once I was convinced that medical cannabis was in fact medicine, I felt a need almost to legitimize it. And I thought the best way to do that was with a traditional peer-reviewed medical journal.
Yeah, and a fantastic job you've done so far. You guys have become a real top leading source of information on the ECS for the medical professionals in this industry. Was that the main target at outset? And if so, how do you come to the process of validating what papers get published and what don't? Because an apple and an orange are two different things. As we know, there's now thousands of publications that have happened. How do you guys choose the best ones to publish?
Sure. We have somebody that's been with the publication from the very beginning. Her name is Megan Roloff, and all content, all studies, all research flows through her, and she puts it through a rigorous peer review process with the folks on our editorial board, just to make sure that everything is factually accurate and scientifically accurate. And different times we'll have a conversation with our editor-in-chief, Dr. Leslie Atbar, Megan Roloff, and myself, and we'll have pretty detailed conversations about which studies should be included, and even a lot of the anecdotal studies and case studies we're including now as well.
Very interesting. You recently had a great deal with Haymarket Media Group. Do you see the merger and acquisitions of cannabis media outlets and information outlets in the industry being a more valuable asset for people to target in the coming future? Obviously, you guys are kind of at the top of the food chain with the most foremost medical information, but do you see that trickling down across the sector?
I hope so. I do hope so, because I think that the science and the research should be everybody's North Star, at least on the medical side of the house, right? I think that's what's going to, inform doctors' decisions and lead us to better patient outcomes. I also think the doctor is in a difficult position right now. They're being asked about medical cannabis and CBD and all these other things by their patients, while at the same time, they're at a disadvantage because they were never trained on the ECS. And that's kind of, one of the things that we're hoping to help out a little bit, at least to show doctors like, yes, inside each one of us, just like we have a cardiovascular system, just like we have a nervous system, we have an endocannabinoid system. And, let's start there, right? Let's establish that foundation there. And then from there, we can go anywhere.
When it comes to the future of the drug discovery and development side of things, the actual molecule that's going to be the ingredient for these will have to be registered as an API, either with EMA or with the FDA. Do you see fermentation engineering being the conduit to create these molecules as pure and as replicable and as safe as going to be required for large-scale drug discovery and development?
I do, and I'm hearing a lot about different ways to synthesize and present these molecules for FDA approval. I'm also reading a lot about something I wasn't too schooled up on, but the botanical the drug pathway that the FDA already has in place. is something that, again, I don't know a lot about, but the more I read about it, the more that looks like it could be a viable option as well. And not just for cannabis, for any plant-based medicine.
When you're publishing these papers, do you see a heavy lean towards neuropathic pain, inflammation? Are they kind of the two main ailments that everybody's going after? Because we have seen some companies that have developed gastrointestinal information products and cardiovascular information products. Is the ability to target these inflammation receptors, do you think, where the main capital expenditure is going to go in the coming years?
I think so. I think there are companies out there that are already targeting specific conditions and disease states with one molecule synthesized compounds. And listen, that's one path to go. And if a patient meets with success with that, why would we have a problem with that, right? I know there's a faction of folks out there that are 100% against the synthesized cannabinoids. Listen, at the end of the day, if it helps people, if it helps patients, I'm 100% for it. And I think the journal is as well.
Yeah, and it seems to be whatever is the safest and most regulated and effectively replicable solution is what politicians who have no vested interest or policymakers who have no vested interest want to see, whether it's in medical cannabis or across a multitude of the pharmaceutical sector.
Which makes sense. Of course you want the safest possible delivery systems. Of course you have to be cognizant about drug interactions. And, cannabis, a lot of people think it's because it's natural, because it's a plant, it's completely safe. And for the most part, it's very, very safe. But there are things you do have to keep your eye out for, and drug interactions is definitely one of them.
Do you see the potential IP and patent ability for people to create their own entourage effect from blending terpenes with cannabinoids and flavonoids to be able to make these new formulations that can deliver for patients across ailment A, B, C? Is that kind of, again, one of the main targets that a lot of these companies should be going after? Because surely if the entourage effect is what everybody goes on about, and a biotech company can actually make their own perfect formulation of these molecules, it seems like a very advantageous route to take.
That is one route that I'm hearing that pharmaceutical companies and non-pharmaceutical companies, health and wellness companies are actually taking. What they're looking at is, with all these different cannabinoids that are in the plant, can we extract them, synthesize them, and then bring them kind of back together along with the terpenes and the flavonoids, and kind of recreate synthetically, what God created in the plant. And then, of course, the people that push back on that are saying, why not just use the plant? It's already there. It's functioning. And again, it doesn't, the reason why we can or might not be able to is it doesn't fit nicely into the FDA approval process. But again, that's where I've been learning more about that, the plant-based approval process. And that might be an option.
You guys have published some recent research on psychedelic research. That seems to be another pretty advantageous route from mental health and depression and PTSD's potential solutions. Is psilocybin going to be the key molecule within that industry, like we've seen CBD and THC in the cannabis industry?
It looks like that's going to be the case, right? CBD looked like it was the gateway molecule, into the cannabis plant. It was the molecule that everybody kind of learned about at the same time, got very popular at the same time, and we can thank CBD because it made people curious about what the other cannabinoids are in the plant and what they can do. I probably should have said this at the beginning, but we are not specifically a cannabis journal. We study the ECS, the endocannabinoid system, as a therapeutic target. So psychedelic medicine, anything that engages with the ECS, is what we want to report on. And it seems like every month that goes by, we're finding something else that we didn't know engage with the endocannabinoid system that in fact does.
If you look at the pathway to get to psilocybin, there's a number of intermediates along the way to get there, and it seems to be a much longer process, a more capital intensive process to do this. Do you really see that the only way a full global market for these drugs are going to become available again if somebody can produce these in 20,000 liter batches every week? Because realistically, cultivating psilocybin from mushrooms for a global population is not much of a realistic option.
No, I think Again, I think you're right. I think that's the direction that this is going into. If we are going to make this medicine available to as many people as possible, I would think that it would have to be synthesized in order for it to be distributed to that many people.
And it seems as well the kind of big topics at the moment in, or the big future potential gains that can happen in pharmaceuticals is going to be gene therapies, cell therapies, microbial antibodies. You see the psilocybin and mental health side of the issue being a dominant player in the next 5 to 10 years, because as much as there's been low-hanging fruit for biotech and pharmaceutical companies over the last couple of decades, it's all about what's new and what's potentially upcoming that's coming around the corner. Do you think the big, large pharmaceutical drug manufacturers are looking at it like this and are waiting for biotech companies to do the heavy lifting and then come in and acquire as may be?
Yeah, typical pharma, right? Where they're going to wait, I think, for the smaller companies to develop these drugs, and then the big boys will come in and just buy up the smaller fish, which is fine. That it's a system that has worked for years, and I think to your point, it will probably continue to go down that road. Yeah.
What other exciting topics and areas are you starting to see, and are you expecting to see over the coming 12 to 24 months? Do you reckon the scheduling from 1 to 3 will have a big impact on the research and development side of the industry?
I do, I do, and it's one of the biggest things that I hope comes out of the rescheduling to Schedule 3 is, hopefully this avalanche of research, and hopefully that avalanche happens here in America. Once we have access to the plant to study, I'm thinking that every university in the country should be studying it. And what we're seeing now is there's great work coming from great research coming from Israel, coming from Canada, coming from all over the world. And America just has to jump in there and with both feet and do what it does best, right? Be a leader in science and research.
Yeah, little old Ireland here with all the home of all the pharmaceutical companies. I don't think it'll be too far behind everybody.
Oh,
There's yeah, some very interesting things I'm sure will happen here over the coming years as well.
100%. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the industry over the next 12 to 24 months? Do you see the stocks jumping? Do you see this descheduling happen? Is safe bank coming uh, to reality?
I think so, right? I think this is, I don't want to say it's the moment everybody has been waiting for, because as you are probably well aware, um, there's a big push against Schedule 3, not just here in America, but throughout the world. And I think some of those fears are real. Good people and quality companies, I think, are going to be negatively impacted by Schedule 3. But I think, far more people and far more companies are going to benefit by Schedule 3. I mean, if we just took what we were talking about, the research, that's going to be released because of Schedule 3. And then you add on things like safe banking, and some of the other things that are going to come along with Schedule 3. I think it's a really good, strong step in the right direction. And I think it's going to free up a lot of capital, a lot of energy. And, what we're going to see come from it is research and then products from that research. And I'm excited about all of that, and we hope to be there in an educational arm and also in a marketing arm.
It seems to be as well, if the scheduling happens, that as much as some of the companies are going to end up getting butchered in the industry, the big winner is going to be the patient years down the road, that patients will have access to more refined drugs that deliver a non-addictive and maybe a better solution than current market methods.
100%. Yeah. And that's where I get excited. For me, the patient was always at the center of all of this, right? We don't really get involved with the rec side of the house. Our gym is 100% medical, and the patient is at the center of that. So yeah, I look forward to a day when patients are going to be able to access medication that has less side effects. So they're not taking a pill and then 3 pills for the side effects. As we know, cannabis is very effective in certain conditions and extremely safe at the same time. So, that to me is the big payoff of medical cannabis and plant-based medicine in general.
Couldn't agree more. Ken, we're just up at the 15-minute mark now. For anybody who's never been to the endocannabinoidmedicine.com website, the link is below and it'll be available wherever you watch or listen to this. I couldn't recommend the site more, where everybody should be subscribing and checking this website up to date, because it's at the forefront of all the most pertinent information in this industry. Ken, thank you very much for taking your time to do this. It's very much appreciated.
Well, thanks for having me.
Until next episode, everybody.